two U.S. senators asking for the DOJ to investigate Binance in regards to information that is sent over to different departments regarding its relationship between Binance US and Binance, the international agency. Senators Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts and Chris Van Hollen, also of Maryland, and alleged the U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland alleged that the crypto exchange may have made false statements, including its affiliation with Binance US. Now, for those not in the know, Binance US essentially is a firm that has licensed the trading engine of Binance and a few of its other things, such as like its image and brand. And over the years, they've tried to be separate. There's always been questions around how separate they are. And over the last 18 months or so, there's been some new information about the relationship between these two entities that has caught the eye of many regulators, especially as Binance is now in the crosshairs of the SEC. Adam, I'll throw the story over to you.
Yeah, I mean, this is just the latest volley in kind of the fight over jurisdiction here, right? Like, the challenge around cryptocurrency broadly is that it is not a national technology. It doesn't really understand borders. And so when you look at the institutions, especially the on-ramps and off-ramps, that are responsible for regulating this type of thing, like onboarding people into the ecosystem and then allowing them to kind of sell their tokens. The rules in the US are very different than the rules elsewhere. And the way the US kind of grabs jurisdiction is to say, hey, if you have a single US client, then that means that we think that we have effectively as much right to regulate you as anybody else does and bring action against you. So the question here really has been, what is Binance? Is Binance an independent entity that has, like the branding characteristics and a tangential relationship to the overall larger Binance, or is it kind of something more? The specifics around the kind of Warren's comments, again, Warren notoriously over the course of the last year has said that she's building an anti-crypto army. So this isn't exactly a person who, is like, hey, I want to make sure that everybody is doing the right thing. Again, you have to remember that Warren came into the kind of world of politics as an anti-banking crusader. And she has since not really acted like that in practice. And much of what she's done has not gone to support that. So at this point, I just remain incredibly skeptical about all of these things. This is all just playing politics as far as I can tell. And honestly, we have so many big problems in the world today that it's just an irritation, I think, at this point. But that's politics for you. Jen?
Adam, I'm with you. I think that, every time there's a big headline in crypto, we hear Warren come out and make headlines on it. Most recently, it was about the fentanyl crisis. We covered that story on the show. Warren came out and said, crypto is funding the fentanyl crisis, citing some of that research that we spoke about. I believe it was from Elliptic. Both the senators mentioned in the story issued a letter to Binance in March. I don't know if you both remember. There's so many letters that are issued to these exchanges from all different types of government officials. And in the letter, they said that Binance was a hotbed of illegal financial activity. And so I think it's interesting that now we have the SEC suing Binance, and both senators have come out again and issued yet another letter to look into what's going on. I think that, Adam, like you said, it's politics. We're going to keep seeing senators who support different things come out and say these things, but I don't know how serious we should take it. I feel like it's just politics, and what's going to happen happens. And I don't have much else to say. Will?
I'll tell you how serious it is. Quote unquote from the letter, this is a serious matter, as they said to Merrick Garland. So you really should put this at the top of your list, Jen. It's really important to pay attention to this. No, so I think the bigger thing to look at is the escalating stairs to get to a bigger problem for these exchanges, right? Normally it starts with ask for some information or a probe. We've always seen those headlines like the DOJ, the SEC, CFTC are probing these exchanges, and then you might get a Wells notice. We saw Coinbase, and then a few months later, you actually get an outright lawsuit. And then from there, the bigger problems can arise, such as a DOJ investigation. So if you're actively trying to break U.S. laws and trying to skirt things such as sanctions and other financial activities, right? That's what they're going to look into. And that's really the jugular for a lot of these exchanges, right? The SEC, the CFTC, the most they're really going to do is hit you with a very large fine, tell you to clean up your act, get all of your stuff in order, stop servicing U.S. customers or delist certain products. But if the DOJ starts going after you, well, that's a question of crime typically, or alleged crime, and they might go after you for other things. I mean, the SEC and the CFTC do have the powers to enforce some of those things, but if the DOJ gets involved, it's a little bit more serious. And that's what we're seeing at FTX right now as well, right? So the SEC has an open case against FTX and St. Pimfreed for alleged misconduct, but so does the DOJ and a few other agencies. Adam, I want to throw it to you to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, again, all this comes back to, I think, the comments that we've seen from Gary Gensler recently, as all of these various actions have been brought, I think kind of say the quiet part out loud, which is that as far as the U.S. is concerned, there's no reason for any type of ownership system to exist outside of one that is regulated by the U.S. government and outside of a monetary system, frankly, that is run by the U.S. government. As Gensler recently said, the U.S. already has a digital currency. It's called the dollar. Why would we need anything else? Well, the answer to that question, actually, if you play it out, is pretty revealing, which is that it would be useful to have a currency that didn't have supply dynamics controlled by people who perpetually devalue the currency as a way to secretly tax people without them being able to really see it, and just make them feel like, essentially gaslight them to make them feel like it is their problem that prices are rising, when in reality it is a purely monetary phenomenon. This has been understood for many, many years. So it's not like it's a new thing. It's just something that we're not educated on, and it's a convenient way for them to accomplish the thing that they want anyway. So they can dress it up however they want, and they do dress it up in lots of different ways, whether we're talking about, oh, it's about fentanyl, or oh, it's about the Chinese, or oh, it's about anything else. Again, these most recent things are just kind of the latest of that. Really, it's that none of these systems can withstand a truly competitive system. They can't withstand competition because they're not good products. And so they need a monopoly. And the way that they do that isn't to say, hey, we need a monopoly because our product is lousy. They do it by trying to cast aspersions on everything else, by taking decentralized systems that are quite literally permissionless, which means they can be used for good and for bad, painting them with whatever the worst possible use that they can find is, and then trying to pretend like that represents the entire system, when in reality, all they're doing is protecting their own interests and very much working against the interests of the people. So it continues to be this really, really unfortunate, highly political dynamic that rejects reality for the version of what people who are in charge would like reality to be, and really are willing to give us no option besides that. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Jen?
I will say on the other side of that argument, if crimes were actually committed, 100%. Binance is being accused of some pretty harsh things, then yes, the DOJ perhaps should look into that.